One of the things that I love the most about being an OBGYN physician in the South is the shared life experiences that I have with many of my patients. So many of us grew up very similarly. You have thoughts and beliefs that were passed down to you by the women who loved you the most, and they had the best intentions when sharing these beliefs with you. Things like you shouldn't use a tampon before you have children because it'll take your virginity. Or things like you shouldn't use birth control because it will make you infertile. One of the things that my grandmother shared with me that so many of my patients also believe is that we need periods every single month in order to clean ourselves out. My grandma, the GOAT, the Beatrice Elizabeth Spurgeon Leak, she knew everything. And I carried that belief with me all the way through high school, undergrad, and even medical school. And it wasn't until residency when I became an OBGYN physician and started to learn the science behind hormones and our menstrual cycles that I actually challenged that belief while still honoring what my grandmother taught me. So I was having heavy periods. I learned very early on in GYN oncology, and that was my cancer rotation, that some of our patients were not candidates for surgery to treat their uterine cancer. And so we would meet and we would discuss their treatment options. And if the patient was a candidate for medication, we would give them medication rather than surgery to treat their uterine cancer. As a side effect, many times when those patients would come back to me for their visits, one of the biggest things that I noticed is that they were no longer bleeding heavily. That hormone, that treatment that we were using was progesterone. And then you extrapolate that to your healthy patients. Many of my patients who needed birth control or who needed management of their heavy periods, I was giving them progesterone hormones to treat their heavy periods. And as a side effect, their endometrial linings became very thin and they stopped having these terribly heavy, debilitating, and painful periods. And so then I had to look at myself. And I'll never forget, I came home for a holiday and I showed my grandma the birth control that I was on, the endometrial therapy. Let's just scratch birth control. The endometrial therapy that I was on to treat my heavy periods. And my grandmother did not balk. First of all, she prayed me through into medical school and residency. So she wanted to hear what her baby girl had to say. And I shared with her the science behind how hormones actually can be protective to the lining of the uterus and can be used to treat things such as cancer in patients that do not qualify for surgery because of other medical conditions. And she respected it and she was so proud of me and she changed her way of thinking. That being said, there are many myths and beliefs that are passed down to us that are valid and that actually do have science behind them. One of them for me is my grandmother would give me Motrin for my heavy periods and my pain. There's science behind that. She had no idea, and at the time I had no idea, but Motrin is one of the treatments that I use on a regular basis to treat my patients who have heavy, painful periods. So, what are some things that your mama used to say that you've carried with you to this day that have proven to be true or that you have a few questions about and you want to know whether this is something you should hold on to or whether it's something that you should let go? We can honor their wisdom and match it with science and live healthier, better lives because of it. Share with me. Let's do this together.